the cheese touch. I noticed not too long ago that even though people were getting used to me, no one would actually touch me. I didn't realize this at first because it's not like kids go around touching each other that much in middle school anyway. But last Thursday in dance class, which is like my least favorite class, Missy Antani, the teacher, tried to make him and Jim be my dance partner. Now, I've never actually seen someone have a panic attack before, but I have heard about it. And I'm pretty sure him and I had a panic attack at the second. She got really nervous and turned pale and literally broke into a sweat within a minute. And then she came up with some lame excuse about really having to go to the bathroom. Anyway, Mrs. Atanabe let her off the hook because she ended up not making anyone dance together. Then, yesterday, in my science elective, we were doing this cool mystery power investigation where we had to classify a substance as an acid or a base. Everyone had to hit their mystery powers on a heating plate and make observations. So we were all huddled around the powers with our notebooks. So now there are 8 kids in the elective, and 7 of them were squished together on one side of the plate, while one of them, me, had lots of room on the other side. So of course I noticed it, but I was hoping Miss Rubin wouldn't notice it, because I didn't want her to say something. But of course she did notice it, and of course she said something. Guys, there's plenty of room on that side. Tristan, Nino, go over there, she said. So Tristan and Nino scurried over to my side. Tristan and Nino have always been okay nice to me. I want to go on record as saying that, not super nice, like they go out of their way to hang out with me, but okay nice, like they say hello to me and talk to me like normal. And they didn't even make a face when Miss Rubin told them to come on my side, which a lot of kids do when they think I'm not looking. Anyway, everything was going fine until Tristan's mystery powder started melting. He moved his foil off the plate, just as my powder began to melt too, which is why I want to move mine off the plate. And then my hand accidentally bumped his hand for a fraction of a second. Tristan jerked his hand away so fast, and he dropped his foil on the floor, while also knocking everyone else's foil off the heating plate. Tristan jarred Miss Rubin, but Tristan didn't even care about the spilled powder on the floor or that he ruined the experiment. What he was most concerned about was getting to the lab sinks to wash his hands as fast as possible. That's when I knew for sure that there was this thing about touching me at Bishop Brock. I think it's like the cheese tart in Diary of a Wimpy Kid. The kids in that story were afraid they'd cut the cooties if they touched the old moody cheese on the basketball court. At Bishop Brock, I'm the old moody cheese.
Costumes. For me, Halloween is the best holiday in the world. It even beats Christmas. I get to dress up in a costume, I get to wear a mask, I get to go around like every other kid with a mask, and nobody thinks I look weird. Nobody takes a second look, nobody notices me, nobody knows me. I wish every day could be Halloween. We could all wear masks all the time. Then we could walk around and get to know each other before we got to see what we looked like under the masks. When I was little, I used to wear an astronaut helmet everywhere I went. To the playground, to the supermarket, to pick me up from school, even in the middle of summer. Though it was so hot, my face was wet. I think I wore it for a couple of years, but I had to stop wearing it when I had my eye surgery. I was about 7, I think, and then we couldn't find the helmet after that. Mom looked everywhere for it. She figured that it had probably ended up in Ren's attic, and she kept meaning to look for it, but by then I had gotten used to not wearing it. I have pictures of me in all my Halloween costumes. My first Halloween, I was a pumpkin. My second, I was Tigger. My third, I was Peter Pan. My dad dressed up as Captain Hook. My fourth, I was Captain Hook. My dad dressed up as Peter Pan. My fifth, I was an astronaut. My sixth, I was Obi-Wan Kenobi. My seventh, I was a clone trooper. My eighth, I was Darth Vader. My ninth, I was the bleeding Scream, the one that has fake blood oozing over the school mask. This year I'm going to be Boba Fett. Not Boba Fett the kid in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, but Boba Fett the man from the Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Mom searched everywhere for the costume but couldn't find one in my size, so she bought me a Jango Fett costume. Since Jango was Boba's dad and wore the same armor, and then painted the armor green, she did some other stuff to it to make it look worn too. Anyway, it looks totally real. Mom's really good at costumes. In homeroom, we all talked about what we were going to be for Halloween. Charlotte was going as Hermione from Harry Potter. Jack was going as a Wolfman. I heard that Julian was going as Jango Fett, which was a weird coincidence. I don't think he liked hearing that I was going as Boba Fett. On the morning of Halloween, Via had this big crying meltdown about something. Via's always been so calm and cool, but this year she's had a couple of these kinds of fits. Dad was late for work and was like, "Via, let's go, let's go." Usually Dad is super patient about things, but not when it comes to his being late for work, and his yelling just stressed out Via even more, and she started crying louder. So Mom told Dad to take me to school and that she'd deal with Via. Then Mom kissed me goodbye quickly before I even put on my costume and disappeared into Via's room. "Augie, let's go," said Dad. "I have a meeting I can't be late for. I haven't put on my costume on yet." "So put it on already. 5 minutes. I'll meet you outside." I rushed to my room and started to put on the Boba Fett costume, but all of a sudden I didn't feel like wearing it. I'm not sure why. Maybe because it had all these bells that needed to be tightened and I needed someone's help to put it on. Or maybe it was because it still smelled a little like paint. All I knew was that it was a lot of work to put the costume on, and Dad was waiting and would get super impatient if I made him late. So the last minute, I threw on the Bleeding Scream costume from last year. It was such an easy costume, a long black robe and a big wine mask. I yelled goodbye from the door on my way out, but Mom didn't even hear me. "I thought you were going at Jango Fett," said Dad when I got outside. "Boba Fett." "Whatever," said Dad. "This is a better costume anyway." "Yeah, it's cool," I answered.
The bleeding scream. Walking through the halls that morning on my way the locker was, I have to say, absolutely awesome. Everything was different now. I was different. Where I usually walk with my head down, trying to avoid being seen. Today I walked with my head up, looking around. I wanted to be seen. One kid wearing the same exact costume as my long white school face, using fake red blood, high-five me as we passed each other on the stair. I have no idea who he was, and he had no idea who I was, and I wondered for a second if he would have ever done that, if he would know it was me under the mask. I was starting to think this was going to go down as one of the most awesome days in the history of my life. But then I got to homeroom. The first costume I saw as I walked inside the door was Darth Sidious. It had one of the rubber masks that are so realistic, with a big black hood over the head and a long black robe. I knew right away it had Julian. Of course, he must have changed his costume at the last minute because he thought I was coming as Jango Fett. He was talking to two mummies who must have been Ma and Henry. and they were all kind of looking at the door like they were waiting for someone to come through it. I knew it wasn't a bleeding scream they were looking for, it was Boba Fett. I was going to go and sit at my unusual desk, but for some reason, I don't know why, I found myself walking over to a desk near them, and I could hear them talking. One of the mummies was saying, "It really does look like him, like this part especially," answered Julian's voice. He put his finger on the cheek and eye of his dark serious mask. "Actually," said the mummy, "what he really looked like is one of those shrunken heads. Have you ever seen those? He looked exactly like that." "I think he looks like an orc." "Oh yeah, if I look like that," said the Julian voice, kind of laughing, "I swear to God, I would put hood over my face every day." "I have thought about it a lot," said the second mummy, sounding serious, "and I really think if I look like him seriously, I think that I could kill myself." "You would not," answered that serious. "Yeah, for real," insisted the same mummy. "I can't imagine looking in the mirror every day and seeing myself like that. It would be too awful, and getting started all the time." "Then why do you hang out with him so much?" asked that serious. "I don't know," answered the mummy. "This man asked me to hang out with him at the beginning of the year, and he must have told all the teachers to put us next to each other in our class or something." The mummy shrugged. I knew the shrug. Of course, I knew the voice. I knew I wanted to run out of the class like then and there. But I stood where I was and listened to Jack Will finish what he was saying. "I mean, the thing is, he always follows me around. What am I supposed to do?" "Just trick him," said Julian. "I don't know what Jack answered because I walked out of the class without anyone knowing I had been there. My face felt like it was on fire while I walked back down the stairs. I was squeezing under my costume, and I started crying. I couldn't keep it from happening. The tears were so thick in my eyes I could barely see. But I couldn't wipe them through the mud as I walked. I was looking for a little tiny spot to disappear into. I wanted a hole I could fall inside of, a little black hole that could eat me up.
Names: Rat Boy, Freak, Monster, Freddy Krueger, E.T., Gross Out, Lizardface, Mutant. I know the names they call me. I've been in enough playgrounds to know kids can be mean. I know. I ended up in the second floor bathroom. No one was there because first period had started and everyone was in class. I locked the door to my stall and took up my mask and just cried for I don't know how long. Then I went to the nurse's office and told her I had a stomachache, which was true because I felt like I'd been kicked in the gut. Nurse Molly called Mom and had me lie down on the sofa next to her desk. 15 minutes later, Mom was at the door. "Sweetness," she said, coming over to hug me. "Hi," I mumbled. I didn't want her to ask anything until afterward. "You have a stomachache?" she asked, automatically putting her hand on my forehead to take my temperature. "He said he feels like throwing up," said Nurse Molly, looking at me with very nice eyes. "And I have a headache," I whispered. "I wonder if it's something you ate," said Mom, looking worried. "There's a stomach bug going around," said Nurse Molly. "Oh, geez," said Mom, her eyebrows going up as she shook her head. She helped me to my feet. "Should I call a taxi or are you okay walking home?" "I can walk." "What a brave kid," said Nurse Molly, patting me on the back as she walked us toward the door. "If he starts throwing up or runs a temperature, you should call a doctor." "Absolutely," said Mom, shaking Nurse Molly's hand. "Thank you so much for taking care of him." "My pleasure," answered Nurse Molly, putting her hand under my chin and tilting my face up. "You take care of yourself, okay?" I nodded and mumbled, "Thank you." Mom and I walked the whole way home. I didn't tell her anything about what had happened. And later, when she asked me if I felt well enough to go trick or treating after school, I said no. This worried her, since she knew how much I usually loved trick or treating. I heard her say to Dad on the phone, "He doesn't even have the energy to go trick or treating." "No, no fever at all." "Well, I will if he doesn't feel better by tomorrow." "I know, poor thing. Imagine he's missing Halloween." I got out of going to school the next day too, which was Friday, so I had the whole weekend to think about everything. I was pretty sure I would never go back to school again.
A tour of the galaxy. August is the sun. Me and mom and dad are planets orbiting the sun. The rest of our family and friends are asteroids and comets floating around the planets orbiting the sun. The only celestial body that doesn't orbit the sun is Daisy the dog, and that is only because to her little doggy eyes, August's face doesn't look very different from any other human's face. To Daisy, all our faces look alike, as flat and pale as the moon. I'm used, I'm used to the way this universe works, and I've never minded it because it is all I've ever known. I've always understood that August is special and has special needs. If I was playing too loudly and he was trying to take a nap, I knew I would have to play something else because he needed his rest after some protest or the had left him weak in pain. If I wanted mom and dad to watch me play soccer, I knew that 9 out of 10 times they would miss it because they were busy shuttling August to speech therapy or physical therapy or a new specialist or a surgery. Mom and dad would always say I was the most understanding little girl in the world. I don't know about that, just that I understood there was no point in complaining. I've seen August after his surgeries, his little face bent up and swollen, his tiny body full of wires and tubes to keep him alive. After you've seen someone else going through that, it feels kind of crazy to complain over not getting the toy you had asked for or your mom missing a school play. I knew this even when I was 6 years old. No one ever told it to me, I just knew it. So I've gotten used to not complaining, and I've got used to not bothering mom and dad with little stuff. I've gotten used to figuring things out of my own. How to put toys together, how to organize my life so I don't miss friends' birthday party, how to stay on top of my schoolwork so I never fall behind in class. I've never asked for help with my homework, never needed reminding to finish a project or study for a test. If I was having trouble with a subject in school, I would go home and study it until I figured it out on my own. I taught myself how to convert fractions into decimal points by going online. I've done every school project pretty much myself. When mom or dad ask me how things are going in school, I've always said good, even when it hasn't always been so good. My worst day, worst fall, worst headache, worst bruise, worst camp, worst mean thing not anyone could say has always been nothing compared to what August has gone through. This isn't me being noble, by the way, it's just the way I know it is. And this is the way it has always been for me, for the little universe of Earth. But this year, there seems to be a shift in the cosmos. The galaxy is changing. Planets are falling out.
Chapter 33. Before August. I honestly don't remember my life before August came into it. I look at pictures of me as a baby, and I see mom and dad smiling so happily, holding me. I can't believe how much younger they looked back then. Dad was this hipster dude, and mom was this cute Brazilian fashionista. There's one shot of me at my third birthday. Dad's right behind me, while mom's holding the cake with 3 lit candles. And in back of us are Tata and Papa, Grant's uncle, Ben, Aunt Kate, and Uncle Pooh. Everyone's looking at me, and I'm looking at the cake. You can see in that picture how I really was the first child, first grandchild, first niece. I don't remember what it felt like, of course, but I can see it plain as can be in the pictures. I don't remember the day they brought August home from the hospital. I don't remember what I said or did or felt when I saw him for the first time, though has a story about it. Apparently, I just looked at him for a long time without saying anything at all, and then finally I said, "It doesn't look like Lily." That was the name a doll's Gran had given me when Mom was pregnant, so I could practice being a sister. It was one of those dolls that are incredibly lifelike. It had carried it everywhere for months, changing its diaper, feeding it. I'm told I even made a baby sling for it. The story goes after my initial reaction to August. It only took a few minutes. According to Grants, or a few days, according to Mom, before I was all over him, kissing him, cuddling him, baby talking to him. After that, I never so much as touched or mentioned Lily ever again.
Seeing August. I never used to see August the way other people saw him. I knew he didn't look exactly normal, but I really didn't understand why strangers seemed so shocked when they saw him. Horrified, sickened, scared. There are so many words I can use to describe the looks on people's faces, and for a long time I didn't get it. I would just get mad. Mad when they stared, mad when they looked away. What the heck are you looking at? I would say to people, even grown-ups. Then, I was about 11. I went to stay with Grace in Montauk for 4 weeks while August was having his big jaw surgery. This was the longest I would have ever been away from home, and I have to say it was so amazing to suddenly be free of all that stuff that made me so mad. No one stared at Grace and me when we went down to buy groceries. No one pointed at us. No one even noticed us. Grace was one of the grandmothers who do everything with their grandkids. She would run into the ocean if I asked her to, even if she had nice clothes on. She would let me play with her makeup and didn't mind if I used it on her face to practice my face painting skills. She would take me for ice cream even if we hadn't eaten dinner yet. She would draw George's horse on the sidewalk in front of her house. One night, while we were walking back from town, I told her that I wished I could live with her forever. I was so happy there. I think it might have been the best time in my life. Coming home after 4 weeks felt very strange at first. I remember very vividly stepping through the door and seeing August running over to welcome me home. And for this tiny fraction of a moment, I saw him not the way I always saw him, but the way other people saw him. It was only a flash, an instant while he was hugging me, so happy that I was home. But it surprised me because I would never seen him like that before. I would never felt what I was feeling before, either. A feeling I hate myself for having the moment I had it. But He was kissing me with all his heart. All I could see was a drool coming down his chin. And suddenly there I was, like all the people who would stare and look away, horrified, sickened, scared. Thankfully, that only lasted for a second. The moment I heard August laugh, his raspy little laugh, it was over. Everything was back the way it had been before, but it had opened a door for me, a little peephole, and on the other side of the peephole there was two August, the one I saw blindly and the one other people saw. I think the only person in the world I could have told any of this to was Grace, but I didn't. It was too hard to explain over the phone. I thought maybe when she come for Thanksgiving, I would tell her about what I felt. But just 2 months after I stayed with her in Montauk, my beautiful Grace died. It was so completely out of the blue. Apparently, she had checked herself into the hospital because she had been feeling nauseous. Mom and I drove out to see her, but it's 3 hour drive from home, where we live. And by the time we got to the hospital, Grace was gone. I heard attack. They told us just like that. It's so strange how one day you can be on this earth and the next day not. Where did she go? Will I really ever see her again? Or is that a fairy tale? You see movies and TV shows where people receive horrible news in hospitals. But for us, with all many trips to the hospital with August, there has always been good outcomes. What I remember the most from the day Grace died is Mom literally clumping to the floor in slow, heaving sobs, holding her stomach like someone had just punched her. I've never seen Mom like that, never heard sounds like that come out of her. Even through all of August's surgery, Mom's always put on a brave face. On my last day on Montauk, Grace and I had watched the sunset on the beach. We had taken a blanket to sit on, but it had gotten chilly, so we wrapped it around us and cut it and talked until there wasn't even a silver of sun left over the ocean. And then Grace told me she had a secret to tell me. She loved me more than anyone else in the world. Even August? I had asked. She smiled and stroked my hair, like she was thinking about what to say. I love Augie very, very much, she said softly. I can still remember her British accent, the way she wrote her A's. But he has many angels looking out for him already, dear, and I want to know that you have me looking out for you. Okay, Minia Querida. I want you to know that you are number one for me. You are mine. She looked out at the ocean and spread her hands out, like she was trying to smooth out the waves. You are my everything. You understand, Via? Tu es no todo. I understood her, and I knew she was said it was a secret. Grandmothers aren't supposed to have favorites. If everyone knows that. But after she died, I held on to that secret and let it cover me like a blanket.
August, through the peephole. His eyes are about an inch below where they should be on his face, almost to halfway down his cheeks. They stand downward at an extreme angle, almost like diagonal slits that someone cut into his face, and the left one is noticeably lower than the right one. They bulge outward because his eye cavities are too shallow to accommodate them. The top eyelids are always halfway closed, like he's on the verge of sleeping. The lower eyelids sag so much they almost look like a bit of invisible string is pulling them downward. You can see the red part on inside, like they're almost inside out. He doesn't have eyebrows or eyelashes. His nose is disproportionately big for his face and kind of flashy. His head depending on the size where the ears should be, like someone used giant pliers and crushed the middle part of his face. He doesn't have cheekbones. There are some deep creases running down both sides of his nose to his mouth, which gives him a waxy appearance. Sometimes people assume he's been burned in a fire. His features look like they've been melted, like the drippings on the side of a candle. Several surgeries to correct his palate have left a few scars around his mouth. The most noticeable one being a jagged gash running from the middle of his upper lip to his nose. Upper teeth are small and splay out. He has a severe overbite and an extremely undersized jawbone. He has a very small chin. When he was very little, before a bit of his hip bone was surgically implanted into his lower jaw, he really had no chin at all. His tongue would just hang out of his mouth with nothing underneath to block it. Thankfully, it's better now. He can eat at least. When he was younger, he had a feeding tube, and he can talk, and he learned to keep his tongue inside his mouth, though that took him several years to master. He's also learned to control the drool that used to run down his neck. These are considered miracles. When he was a baby, the doctors didn't think he'd live. Most kids born with these type of birth defects have problems with their middle ears that prevent them from hearing. But so far, August can hear well enough through his tiny cauliflower-shaped ears. The doctors think that eventually he'll need to wear hearing aids, though August hates the thought of this. He thinks the hearing aids will get noticed too much. I don't tell him that the hearing aids would be the least of his problems, of course, because I'm sure he knows this. Then again, I'm not really sure what August knows or doesn't know, but he understands and doesn't understand. Does August see how other people see him, or has he gotten so good at pretending not to see that it doesn't bother him, or does it bother him? When he looks in the mirror, does he see the Augie mom and the Daisy? Or does he see the Augie everyone else sees? Or is there another August he sees, someone in his dreams behind the misshapen head and face? Sometimes when I look at Grant, I could see the pretty girl she used to be underneath the wrinkles. I could see the girl from Ipanema inside the old lady walk. Did August see himself as he might have? Because the trophier of his face. I wish I could ask him this stuff. I wish he could tell me how he feels. He used to be easier to read before the surgeries. You know that when his eyes squinted, he was happy. When his smile went straight, he was being mischievous. When his cheeks trembled, he was about to cry. He looks better now, no doubt about that, but the signs we use to gauge his moods are all gone. There are new ones, of course. Mom and Dad can read every single one. But I'm having trouble keeping up. And there's a part of me that doesn't want to keep trying. Why can't he just say what he is feeling like everyone else? He doesn't have a chested tube in his mouth anymore that keeps him from talking. His jaw's not wired shut. He is 10 years old. He can use his words, but we circle around him like he's still the baby he used to be. We train plants, go to plant B, interrupt conversations, go back on promises depending on his moods, his whims, his needs. That was fine when he was little, but he needs to grow up now. We need to let him, help him, make him grow up. Here's what I think. We've all spent so much time trying to make August think he's normal. that he actually thinks he's normal, and the problem is he's not.
High school. What I always loved most about the middle school was that it was separate and different from home. I could go there and be Oliver Pullman, not Veer, which is my name at home. Veer was what they called me in the elementary school. Back then, everyone knew all about us, of course. Mom used to pick me up after school, and August was away in a stroller. There wasn't a lot of people who were equipped to babysit for Augie. So Mom and Dad brought him to all my class, play and concert and recital, honor school function, the bake sale and the book fairs. My friend knew him, my friend parent knew him, my teacher knew him, and the janitor knew him. August was something of a fixture at PS22. But in the middle school, a lot of people didn't know about August. My old friend did, of course, but my new friend didn't. Or if they knew, it wasn't necessary. The first thing they knew about me. Maybe it was the second or the third thing they did hear about me. Something like Oliver, yeah, she's 9, but you hear she has a brother who is deformed. I always hate that word. But I knew it was how people describe Augie, and I knew this kind of conversation properly happened of on time earshot. Every time I left the room or at the party, or pump into a group of friends at the pizza place. But that's okay. I'm always going to be the sister of a kid with a birthday face. That is not the issue. I just don't always want to be the defeat that way. The best thing about high school is that hardly anybody know me at all, except Miranda and Ella. Of course, and they know not to go around talking about it. Miranda and Ella and I have always each other since the first grade. What is so nice is we never have to explain things to one another. When I decide I want them to call me Oliver instead of Fear, and they got it without my having to explain. They have known August since he was a little baby. When he was little, our favorite thing to do was play dress up with Augie, lock him up with feather bows and big hat and Hannah Mountain wing. He used to love it, of course, and we thought he was adorable, cute, in his own way. Ella said he reminded her to E.T. She didn't say this to be mean, of course. The truth is, there is a screen in the movie when Drew Barrymore dressed E.T. in a blood green. And that was a ringer for Augie in our miraculous today. Through our middle school, Miranda, Ella, and I were pretty much on our little group. Some were between super popular and well like, not brainy, not jock, not rich, not dreary, not mean, not goody, not huge, not flat. I don't know if the three of us found each other because we were so alike in so many ways, or that because we found each other we have become so alike in so many ways. We were so happy when we all got into Frankner High School. It was no one else from our middle school was. I remember how we screamed into our phone the day we got our acceptance letter. This is why I haven't understood what has been going on with us lately. Now that we're actually in high school, it is nothing like how I thought it would be.